Good afternoon from Fired Up. I'm your host for the show, Bob Irwin, broadcasting from Rigel Studios here in Las Vegas, Nevada. This show is about guns, related political issues, and strongly self-defense issues. Fired Up is on our website, firedupwithbobirwin.com, and on the American Guns and Glory Network, YouTube separately, and numerous other media. A new show is posted every Thursday at 5 o'clock in the afternoon Pacific time. The audio feed is rebroadcast for radio listeners Saturdays at noon on the Nevada Talk Network. Please check out KELY1230.com for a station in your area. Questions and comments can be directed to me by email at bob@firedupmail.com. Again, that's bob@firedupmail, one long word, .com. Or you can leave a message on my office recorder, 702-257-1060. That's 702-257-1060. If you don't leave a message, I can't call you back. Questions directed to my guest attorney, his direct contact will be announced just in a little bit in the show. There are several hundred defensive uses of firearms every week in the United States. They're rarely fully or truthfully covered by any mainstream media, so we always present a few of those for our listeners' education. If you keep a gun at home or carry one on the street, what you can do and what you can't do, and I pick out cases that come to a point that you need to remember. Most of them are good shootings. Some are questionable. Sometimes they're just wrong, but all are educational to firearms owners. Individual incidents, please remember, are adjudicated under local law, so the advice given here might not apply to listeners in different jurisdictions. And stories are often paraphrased for clarity by me and translated from police jargon, what I call lawyer speak, and regional accents around the country, I can say that, into standard American English. The incidents are as reported, except the names are generally omitted. Actually, in one story today, I'm not going to omit the name, but you'll see why when we get there. My guest today is California and Nevada attorney Donald J. Green. Welcome back, Don.
Thank you, Bob.
I told him last week you were coming in. Here you are.
Here we are. Here we are.
Would you give a little bit of your background, please?
Yes, of course. Again, for all your listeners and viewers who don't know me, my name is Don Green, and I'm based here in Las Vegas, but I maintain an active practice in California. About 95% of my cases are firearms related. Everything from the illegal ownership of firearms, transfers of firearms, representation before the FBI, representation before the ATF, federal firearms license applications, machine gun applications, and recovery of weapons. We're trying to recover one right now, a 50 caliber silenced Barrett from a local gun store, which there's some real problems. But anyway, you can call me directly on my cellular at area code 702-409-8239. And again, a little bit later on the show, you'll see the website on one of the little commercials. Thank you.
Okay. This first incident comes to us from the Daily Record, reported February 10th this year in Wayne County, Ohio. A husband woke up Saturday morning at 9 a.m. to his wife asking him if he left the garage door open overnight at their home. He hadn't, but the door was open and his wife said it looked like it had been kicked in. The husband said, so I got up, got dressed, got my pistol. This is the 37-year-old husband talking. He sounds more like me every time. I got up, then I got dressed, then I went to see if we were being robbed. Anyway, he went out and he also called the Wayne County Sheriff's Office. The husband entered the garage and found an intruder, surprise. He said, I pulled my weapon up, told him to stop and get on the ground. I held him at gunpoint until the cops got there. A Wayne County Sheriff's deputy arrived at the scene in 5 to 10 minutes and handcuffed the suspect, identified as a local 37-year-old from nearby Lima. The subject was charged with 1 count of burglary and is being held in the Wayne County Jail in lieu of a $15,000 bond. He was in possession of property from several nearby homes, garages, and vehicles, including one neighbor's wallet, and an abundance of lighters, hand tools, flashlights, and knives. He also had what appeared to be methamphetamine and some marijuana. At the time of the incident, the 37-year-old was also carrying, this is the burglar, was also carrying a handgun and ammunition. It's not clear that the ammunition was in the gun, but separately he had both gun and ammunition. Deputies were joined at the scene by the West Salem Police Department. They recovered the gun, ammunition, and the suspected drugs. The husband said he's glad the situation was resolved peacefully with the suspect in custody. Here, the husband is being a hero. He captured the criminal and saved a lot of neighbors' belongings while he was at it. However, it turns out this intruder was armed. This could have quickly turned into a tragedy. Always try to let the professional search if you think there is an intruder. Call the cops, get out of the way, let them handle it. Comments, Mr. Green?
This may have been a good, citizen's arrest, detention in Ohio. But let's look at this in California. There's a strikingly similar case that came out around somewhere time between 2012 and 2015. A homeowner came home to his garage door open, and when he searched the place, he pulled out a handgun. Several perpetrators were in the garage, including a couple who were underneath a vehicle which was parked inside the garage. The perpetrators attacked or were in the process of attacking the homeowner, and I believe this was in Merced County in San Jose, California, Northern California area. The homeowner was arrested for the discharge of the firearm and the brandishing of the firearm against unarmed perpetrators who were in the homeowner's garage, who were in the process of attacking him. So don't be surprised in California. I made a note here that the perpetrator could say that in the frigid Ohio winter, in the middle of the night, I saw a garage door open. I may have kicked it a little bit, and I only went in to get shelter from the storm. Now, that might fly in California, but probably not in Nevada. But again, homeowner had the presence of mind. Very important for your listeners and your viewers. You don't have to shoot, because once you do shoot, your whole life changes. Everything about it changes. Your work, people looking at you at work, though you can't go to the grocery store. You have to practically become a hermit or just go to the attorney's office while the district attorney is deciding whether he's going to charge you with that murder or that shooting. So, but although technically this looks like a good homeowner kind of, I'm going to stop the guy from doing anything, Bob says, leave it to the professionals. The second you saw him in there, the guy in my garage, I don't know what's going on. Perhaps he could have gone back into his house. The problem is that, as Bob points out, it could have turned out a lot more tragic. But things going for the homeowner, it's in my home. The perpetrator is still in the act of doing something bad. There was no shooting, and the husband or the wife would call the police.
We're going to break now for a brief word from some of our friends and associates. We'll be right back with a really important story for you, so don't go away. Freestyle Martial Arts, located at Jones and Russell here in Las Vegas. You can reach them at 702-551-9009. That's 702-551-9009. CCS Gunsmithing. Chris Eifelt, the man who does all the NRA help, he's at 2216 South Rainbow Boulevard near Sahara. He can be reached at 702-365-1732. Once again, 702-365-1732. Jerry Creed, a trust attorney. If you have a firearms trust or need one, this is your guy. You can reach Jerry at 702-806-7777. That is 702-806-7777. CCW Maggie is found all over the internet. You can reach her by phone at 702-375-5900. That's 702-375-5900. All sorts of firearms training, ladies only classes. She is the best of the best. Call CCW Maggie. And we are back. These are some update notes. Those of you who have been paying attention to the elections we have coming up, you know that we have a whole slug of Democratic candidates for everything, from president on down to dog catcher, who are doing everything they can to tell you how they're going to take the guns away from all of you and outlaw handguns and background checks and ammunition backgrounds and red flag laws and so forth and so forth. It is, this is truthfully the election of the century. The primary for this election is in June, when they will fight it out to see who gets to be on the final ballot. Everyone who owns a firearm or wants to own one or keeps one for self-defense needs to vote for all the Republicans, city, county, state, all the way down the ballot. Bloomberg is financing small races all over town to flip, all over the country to flip assemblies in states and flip county offices and so forth to get his friend Democrat anti-gun people in. The issue here, beyond just voting for the R's, is the judges, who are critically important to us, are nonpartisan offices. It doesn't say Democrat, Republican, Independent, whatever. It just has their names, generally in alphabetical order, on the ballots. Don Green and I are compiling a list of judges who want re-election, or would-be judges who want to be judges, who are pro-Second Amendment and will not sentence you because you simply had a firearm in the wrong place at the wrong time. They will look at the case in a way that is friendly to Second Amendment right to keep and bear arms issues. We're going to have this just before the election in June. Most of the way the judges work here, if in the primary, the judge gets more than 50% of the vote, he's elected. He doesn't have to go in the general election. So it's important to vote in that primary. Even if you don't want to vote in the federal ballot or the state ballot, you can get your ballot and go down and vote for the judges, because that's their shot to not spend their entire life trying to get elected if they win it in the primary. So I'll send the list out to all fired up subscribers through our normal website channels. So if you're not a subscriber to this show, next time you look at it, or you're looking at it now, hit subscribe so you become automatically on our mailing list and I can get it to you. Secondly, there is a gun show coming up in March in Boulder City. Western Trails is setting it up at the Boulder Creek Golf Club. It is at 1501 Veterans Memorial Drive. It's near the Veterans Cemetery, near the little airport down south of Boulder City. Never tried to have one before. It's a small venue. As most of you know, I worked in Boulder City as a bailiff and so for 25, 26 years. It's kind of old home week for me, so I'm going to be there. But I would really recommend you try this little show. It's never been tried before, and it's successful for Boulder City. Obviously, we'll have more gun shows down there. It's easy to get to, and it's a charming little town to go to. Now, we'll get back to our regular stuff here after that. This next story is from Florida Today. A reporter named Tyler Vasquez reported February 18, 2020 in Palm Bay, Florida. A 22-year-old subject was arrested on Valentine's Day morning after police said he broke into a Holbrook Road home in Palm Bay and shot a man who lived there. According to police reports, the subject was attempting to break into the home of his ex-girlfriend around 3 in the morning. She took her 3-month-old child upstairs and called police. Meanwhile, the suspect attempted to open the sliding glass door. Her current live-in boyfriend got his own firearm, went to the slider and opened the curtain to look out through the door, and immediately on the other side of the door, he saw the perp pointing a gun at him. There's a shocker when you open the curtain, the guy's right on the other side. Anyway, he saw him pointing a gun. The resident boyfriend then fired one shot at the subject before his firearm jammed. A note here, me putting on my firearm instructor hat, make sure your go-to gun works. If you're carrying a gun that you haven't fired in a while, go to a range and fire it with the ammunition you're carrying in it for self-defense. You bought some whiz-bang new hollow points, and the time to discover they don't work in your gun is not when you're looking through the glass at a guy pointing a gun at you. Anyway, back to being a gun expert. The 22-year-old suspect returned fire, hitting the resident boyfriend in the leg. He was transported to Holmes Regional Medical Center where he was treated for non-life-threatening injuries. While investigating the shooting, Palm Bay detectives were contacted by the Oskee, now I'm pronouncing that wrong, Ocoee, Oksee Police Department, it's in Florida, who said the suspect was being treated at a local hospital. He had a gunshot wound to the hand. So everybody's going to survive this. A friend of the suspect's had driven him to the couple's home and then to the hospital. She waited while he was in the gunfight. They drove him back to the hospital. She told the police the suspect had taken her pink handgun without her knowing. True or not, it's in Valentine's Day. He's making this home invasion with a pink gun. The suspect was arrested on charges of attempted murder, attempted burglary, aggravated battery, possession of a firearm by a felon. There's a surprise. Possession of a firearm by a felon and shooting into an occupied dwelling. He's being held in the Beaufort County Jail without bond. Now, the suspect, again, is arrested on Valentine's Day for shooting his ex-girlfriend's current boyfriend with a pink gun. And although I rarely use suspects' names who are innocent until proven guilty, I have to tell you, this guy's last name is Love. Mr. Love used a handgun illegally to shoot somebody on Valentine's Day. I just couldn't put that together. I couldn't pass up the name. Don, what do you think?
Bob, how dare you criticize someone using a pink gun? We have to be tolerant. Here's my take. If you used a pink gun, you need to be shot. We had a situation very similar to this about 10 years ago in Nevada where the husband killed the current boyfriend, killed the wife's current boyfriend who broke into the house with a firearm. But what saves this boyfriend in California, remember, the current boyfriend is shooting out of the house. What saves him is when he pulls the curtain back and looks through the closed sliding glass door.
Yes.
And there's the perpetrator is pointing a firearm at him. You don't have to wait to be shot. So at that moment, was his act reasonable? And I want to say that even under the most liberal interpretation of the California Penal Code and California substantive law on self-defense and the use of a firearm in a home, this was probably going to be upheld. although you're probably going to get some smart defense lawyer who's going to say, well, he could have closed the curtain back and ducked or something like that instead of him shooting. And then now we have the girlfriend, the suspect's female friend, who not only drove the perpetrator to the couple's home, she drove him to the hospital. Right. And this is the woman who's saying that the perpetrator had stolen her pink handgun without her knowledge. Of course, she wants to avoid any liability. But again, Bob points out with training, what does this have to do with legal? Well, if you use the wrong ammo and the district attorney finds out about it, you're using overpowered ammo. The DA is going to hold up that cartridge that you've got from that bag that's in your house when they did the search warrant, and he's going to tell the jury, this is an overpowered cartridge, and that's what he used to shoot the perpetrator. And you're the one who's defending your home. Well, now you've got to explain that. Use the factory ammo. Train with the ammo that you're using. And Bob is quite fond of pointing out that he's got a revolver somewhere in Clark County, Nevada, which he thinks might fire after all these centuries of non-use. So maybe Bob will go to the range after this. But yes, train with that. Train with those firearms. And you know, with this woman, I think this friend of the suspect who drove him to the scene. There's the conspiracy. Drove him to the hospital. Now it's her firearm. I think she's got a problem too.
She does. This case is pretty clearly a good self-defense shooting where you want to go. I just couldn't pass it up. These are the types of cases that are kind of open and shut purely, but I couldn't pass it up because of the names and the Valentine's Day and the pink gun and the guy's name is Love. Sorry, folks. I've made you waste your time listening to the story. Anyway, we're going to do a brief word from some of our friends and associates. We'll be right back with one more story. Don't go away. Attorney Donald J. Green, a common guest of mine on Fired Up. He can be reached at 702-409-8239. He specializes in gun case litigation. He is your man, Don Green, 702-409-8239. At Ricardo's Restaurant, where you'll usually find me eating lunch every day if I can get there, they're at the corner of Flamingo and Decatur here in Las Vegas. You can reach them at 702-227-9100. That's 702-227-9100. And Battlefield Vegas, my new kind of home for this show. They're on Circus Drive, directly behind the Circus Hotel and Casino. You can find them there with CCW classes and an amazing place for gun rentals, everything you could possibly imagine. Check out, if you're in town as a tourist, check out battlefieldvegas.com. This last story comes from the Reno Gazette and KOLO TV8 in Reno, reported on February 11th this year in Reno, Nevada. On Saturday, February 8th, two teenagers broke into a home on the 900 block of Bates Avenue, beat up a 14-year-old inside the home, robbed the house, and threatened to return and inflict further harm, according to the Reno Police Department. Then, just before 3 in the morning on February 10, the same teenagers broke into an addition off the house, apparently looking for their previous victim, this kid they wanted to beat up, essentially making good on their threat, said Officer Travis Warren of the Reno Police Department. An adult who lived in the house armed himself and confronted the teenagers. One of the intruders pointed a gun at the adult, prompting him to fire several rounds at them. Both teenage suspects were hit. None of the suspects was found at the scene and one of the suspects, was found at the scene, and as this report remains in critical condition. The other one was shot in the leg, fled, and was later arrested while he was seeking treatment at a hospital. Remember my warnings. If you go to the hospital with a bullet hole in you, they always call the police. In addition, a fire was also started during this confrontation. What sparked the fire is unknown as of this report. Reno police not releasing the identity of the suspects because they're juveniles, and so far no charges have been brought against the adult who opened fire. Comment here, this is a horrible position for the resident adults. Teen and preteen killers are becoming common in our society. Reacting to a child who is trying to murder you is truly a no-win situation. I personally have worked cases where this scenario was presented. The solution is don't get killed. Stop the threat quickly and forcefully. You will probably never recover from the psychological guilt, but that's better than your family losing you forever. First rule, don't die. Mr. Green.
An intruder who points a firearm at you presents a situation where you have to act at that particular moment of truth. Whether or not he's an adult or a teenager or an adolescent, that firearm in the wrong hands can be used to inflict great harm. Firearm doesn't kill anybody, but the person behind that could shoot it, and an untrained teenager, an untrained adolescent, an untrained young adult is in an even worse situation, as Bob points out. So the law does not compel you to assess the situation, whether it's a child pointing a firearm at you. What the law is going to look at is, was your action reasonable? Possibly, could you have done something else? Maybe duck. Was the kid holding a firearm in the air? Was he pointing it away from you? But you don't know. It just takes milliseconds to turn that weapon towards you and kill you. Again, in Nevada, this is going to be a good discharge of the firearm as far as the adult is concerned, and he did the right thing. How he shot these young men in the legs, or one of the suspects was in critical condition, and not kill them, especially given what we believe to be the distances in the home, possibly short distances.
Yeah, very short distance, according to the police report. Yes. You can check out our recent shows at firedupwithboberwin.com. It contains several dozen recent episodes. Please patronize our friends and sponsors when you are in the area and want to do that. We'll be back next Thursday on our website, Fired Up with Bob Irwin, and on YouTube at the American Guns and Glory Network, numerous other websites, television stations, and radio stations. While watching any media, just click subscribe, and new shows will be sent to your computer or phone automatically. That's how you're going to get our list of judges. Please forward these broadcasts to your friends. And a reminder, logo merchandise for Fired Up, our shirts, books, and hats are available at Battlefield Vegas, just behind Circus Circus on the Las Vegas Strip. Remember, the audio portion is broadcast on Nevada Talk Network, all across Nevada on Saturdays at noon. Check out KELY1230.com for the station in your area. Don, thank you for being here
Thank you
again.
again, Bob.
Great show. We'll be back next week. Remember, we'll see you at the gun show in Boulder City. Don't